What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got an episode of The Drive-In where I talk about current movies and their impact on me. Today I want to talk about a movie that came out here in 2018, a few months ago, called Annihilation. Now, this has been much ballyhooed. It's been called one of the best horror films of the year. It's been talked about as being one of the most visually beautiful movies of the year. It's gotten all the rave reviews for being one of the best of 2018, and I've got to say I profoundly and vehemently agree with those sentiments. Annihilation is a sci-fi film. It is not horror, in my opinion. It's sci-fi fantasy with elements of horror. It does cover a litany of genres, which actually makes it a better movie because it brings in a lot of different audiences. But anyway, Annihilation was amazing. It was my favorite film so far in 2018, even though I don't count it as part of the horror genre. I think I'm not a big sci-fi fan person in general. I think some of the big sci-fi movies are overrated in the course of time. But this to me is probably the best sci-fi movie that I've seen in decades, and that is major praise. Annihilation was written and directed by Alex Garland, who also directed Ex Machina, which I've seen and I enjoy. Most of you out there, I think, that are watching this will enjoy Ex Machina from Alex Garland, but I think this is better. He wrote and directed this movie based on Jeff Vandermeer's novel of the same name, which I have not read. It is, I believe, a trilogy of books. I believe Annihilation is a trilogy of novels, and this is based on the first one. I have not read any of those novels, but I've heard they're excellent. I don't know how closely this follows the novels or anything, but it does star Natalie Portman as Lena, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Gina Rodriguez, and several others. And another big note here that I wanted to make, the cinematography was done by Rob Hardy, who I've never heard of, and I didn't see any listings for him with other movies. He probably has other stuff out there. But I wanted to make a note of Rob Hardy's name because the cinematography in this was the #1 selling point of this movie. This movie was visually stunning. It was so aesthetically pleasing. There's going to be spoilers in this review. I'm going to talk about all the crazy endings and all the different twists and things. So if you have not seen Annihilation and you don't want to be spoiled, please go watch that first, then come back and watch my review, because I will give my theory on all the symbolism, because this is one of those deep, mind-bending kind of movies, and I want to give you guys my thoughts on all the twists of it. But again, most importantly, I want to talk about how powerful the cinematography was. The idea that the plot and synopsis of this movie, the prose of this thing, was talking about Lena's character, Natalie Portman, and the other actresses. We open up with her in an office, maybe a doctor's office kind of a thing. She's in quarantine. She's being talked to. She doesn't have much memory of what's going on. But essentially, her husband works in the military. He goes off on a mission, comes back losing a lot of his memory, not knowing really where he went. He went on some big mission and really can't recall much of it when he comes back. It winds up being that he goes on a mission to figure out this shimmer. There is a big, gigantic, fluorescent, iridescent blob, so to speak, a big, shapely, colorful hole, black hole, that is taking over, slowly expanding and taking over parts of the world. Things are disappearing inside this hole, and many teams have been sent out to figure out what it is, why it's there, and what it's doing, and why it's growing. And team by team loses all their guys. Her husband, Natalie Portman's character's husband, Kane, was the first one to come back from the expedition. He was the only person on his team to come back, but he has barely any memory of what went on. So Natalie Portman and her other co-stars go out into this shimmer. They go out on this mission to figure out what exactly this thing is and why it's expanding and what it's doing there. And we come to realize there are many themes in this movie. The theme of self-destruction is the biggest one. We learn all the ancillary and background characters. I think there's like 4 or 5 girls that go on this mission. It's an all-women's team this time because the male teams have failed in the past. So this stars a very female-empowered cast, which is great. Writing strong female-empowered roles and having a female-dominated cast is wonderful progression, and it should be done more often in this film industry, and I applaud that. But we have this wonderful female cast going into this shimmer, and we figured out they've all got something. They're all damaged and broken, and they all feel like they have no reason to go on. So that's why they're choosing themselves to go on this mission. One of the characters is a cutter. She has self-harmed herself in the past. One of these characters is dying of cancer. Another one has lost her son or daughter to cancer. And then Natalie Portman's character, we find out that she's cheated on her husband in the past with a coworker, and he's found out, so their marriage is kind of in shambles. So every single person has kind of sabotaged their lives or had their lives ruined at some point, and they feel like they have no reason to come back. So they're essentially going on a suicide mission inside this shimmer. And we find out as we go along that this shimmer essentially is like an alien life form almost. There was a kind of a big bang, a big crash. There was a big explosion that came down, and as the lightning bolt, so to speak, the big crash came down, it caused this ripple effect of this shimmer, which is essentially an alien life form, which is changing cell patterns. There's a lot of scientific jargon that I can't get into because I don't really understand the language of science, but essentially it is this shimmer area is recreating cell patterns and is duplicating life so fast that it's almost essentially kind of coming into a singularity. And kind of combining cells, but it's duplicating all the things on the in the planet, and it's creating things that we don't know if they're human or plant. We don't know if they're alive or dead. We don't know if these things are just visions and hallucinations, because the longer you spend time inside the shimmer, the more your brain deteriorates. Something inside the cell patterns change the cells inside of each person that spends time inside the shimmer. So not only is it creating life and creating new forms of life, but it's changing the cells inside the people's body that go in there. That's why the people didn't always come out from previous missions, and that's why they didn't. That's why they come back differently than they went in. So changing and evolving is one of the big forms of one of the big themes, I should say, in this movie. So again, great storytelling. Every character's got a backstory, and they're all broken, and they've all been destroyed in life at some point. And you see that breakdown and that build back up. Very strong characters that make good decisions for the most part in this movie. And again, talking about the colorfulness of the shimmer and the forest inside the shimmer, and all the things that happen whenever the cells duplicate, showing the cells, the camera angles they use, the illuminations and lighting patterns they use in this. The way the caverns, they go to this lighthouse, which is the epicenter of what's going on in the creation of this. And just the way the caverns are shot, and how it goes from dark to light, and how they shoot the alien life forms at the end. Everything is just beautiful. It's shot well. The angles are great. The lighting is great. I can't tell you enough how much I love the editing, how much I love the strength of the characters, and how there's more than just one layer to each character. They're all in some sort of peril, but as they talk and have conversation, you see the good and bad in every character. And I love darkness, and I love depth, and I love reasoning behind characters, and this had that in spades. So if you like beautifully shot things, if you like well cut together films, if you like good camera work, and if you like strong characters with depth, this film is the film for you. We come to find out that, getting into the end here, I don't want to go too long. We come to find out that each character kind of dies at one point. We get into the lighthouse, and it's down to just the professor who started this mission and Natalie Portman's character, Lena. And we come to find out the professor is down in the caverns of this lighthouse. There's a big hole. They're down in the hole. The professor sort of rejuvenates. She talks about how this alien life form wants to annihilate the human species and rebuild it in its own image. It wants to recreate everything and start a brand new life. So, and again, I might be doing a bad job explaining this, but again, she winds up turning into this cell. This cell comes out of her. You see light refracting out of her, and you see a whole new being formed. She gets sucked up into this new cell pattern. And Natalie Portman eventually has a drop of blood on her eye, and the hole sucks up the drop of blood, and it creates another Natalie Portman. It creates this alien being that mirrors what Natalie does. She takes a step, it takes a step along with her. You see an alien following the patterns of her. As she goes to escape, the alien fights her and kind of starts turning into her. She looks at an old camera that's sitting up, and it winds up being that Kane, her husband, created a video where he talks about the end of his life. He doesn't know who he is. He's not sure if he's Kane anymore. He winds up killing himself, and beforehand he talks to somebody off screen who winds up being the alien life form of Kane. So Kane's duplicate comes in and says he will look after Natalie Portman's character, and he will find her outside, which he does when he comes home. So the actual Kane kills himself, and the duplicate of Kane winds up being the new Kane out there. So Natalie Portman eventually hands a bomb to the clone character, and the clone character takes it and blows up, and Natalie Portman eventually escapes and gets out. And in the end scene, again, spoilers, we find out that Kane is totally healthy once Natalie gets back. So Natalie Portman's character comes in, and she sees her husband kind of confused, but he's all healthy again. And she says to him, you aren't the real Kane, are you? And he says, I don't think so. And he says, but are you the real Lena? And she just looks and doesn't say anything. And they hug at the end, and both their eyes start to glow the light like it was in The Shimmer. And that's how we end. So it's a very ambiguous ending that you can make a lot of conclusions to. Here's my conclusion. And Natalie Portman says in this movie, and this is why I like this too, they're talking to her about the aliens, saying, oh, well, they're trying to destroy the Earth. They're doing bad things. They attacked you. And she says, they didn't attack me. They just mirrored my image. I don't know if they're trying to do good or bad or what they want. Maybe they're just trying to rebuild it differently. So they're making the aliens not the antagonists. They're not saying this alternate form of life is bad. They're saying it's just different. It's not good or bad. It's just recreating the world in a different image. So it's very ambiguous. But my take on it is the alien Kane came back, and Natalie Portman, the original Natalie Portman's character, Lena, the original Lena came back. She destroyed the lighthouse and destroyed everything. It went up to fire and flames once the bomb went off. But because she was spent so much time in the Shimmer, excuse me, even though she is the original character, she came back so differently because the cells in her started to change, and she spent so much time there that it changed her too. So even though she is the original her, she still has the Shimmer inside her. So even though the original Shimmer is dead, the Shimmer still lives on in the fake Kane and the real Lena, and they're going to procreate and make a family at some point, and they're going to build more babies that are out of this alien Shimmer and sort of create a brand new world for themselves. So even though the Shimmer was destroyed, it still lives on in the two main characters who are a couple. So that is my take on it. But again, the themes of self-destruction and the themes of rebuilding itself, and the fact that the old husband, the new husband comes back and has no memory of the previous marriage, he won't know that she cheated on him before, so she can start anew. And so it's about getting over your old transgressions, finding a reason to live. Natalie Portman's character had a reason to come back from the Shimmer, which is why she came back. She was doing it for her husband. So that there's a theme of the journey there. There's a lot of depth to it. And again, I'm just rambling now, but I'm sort of trying to put two and two together myself. I'm going to watch it several more times. Watching it once is not enough. I will catch more things in the future as I watch. But that is my first impression take on Annihilation. I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10, probably closer to a 9 out of 10. I love this movie. I think it's the best of the year. I think it's good storytelling. I think it's beautiful. I think it's paced well. It's a bit of a slow burn, but I think it's still paced well, even though it's 2 hours. Good characters, good underlying themes, and a really cool, up-in-the-air, ambiguous ending around a very cool force field shimmer thing, which was beautiful. So many great themes, many great images in this movie. I like Alex Garland. I love Rob Hardy's work. You guys should go back and check this out. Please see this movie and tell me in the comments if my theories are correct about this movie, if my themes in this movie are correct, and what you guys think of this movie overall and what you guys think they were trying to do with the storytelling. Tell me in the comments because I want to hear from you guys. This has been The Drive-In, a long version of The Drive-In, and I'm going to come back with you guys on Monday after seeing another movie and tell you guys what I think. See you guys soon.